The best watches of 2025. I actually start thinking about it way earlier in the year, probably way earlier than I should be thinking about it. Here we are, it's the end of 2025. I cannot believe it. This year has gone by so fast. I've done a lot in this year. I started my own watch club here in New York. I started making these t-shirts a long time ago. I named it the Gotham Watch Club. Now it's an actual club here in New York, and that has grown a lot. The channel has continued to grow. I just want to thank all of you guys out there for being a part of this, channel, supporting me in any way that you guys can by liking my videos and of course adding comments down below and just watching these videos. I really do appreciate it. I just want to say thank you to all of you. So without further ado, let's talk about my favorite watches of 2025. Next week we'll talk about some of my not so favorite watches from 2025, but this week we are positive, so I'm going to start with my number one pick. So these are in no particular order, and I'm going to mention over 30 watches in this video. My first pick was a watch that really blew me away when I first saw it. It was a very simple change for the Reverso. This is the Reverso Tribute Monoface by JLC. It gets a small seconds. It's in pink gold, and they put it on a stunning, and I don't use stunning very often, but a stunning Milanese bracelet that matches the case and the dial. This looked fantastic, and it brought this watch to a new level for me. It is gorgeous. It's also really expensive at $44,000, but there's no denying that this is a very good looking watch. So a little bit different from years prior. Here I will mix in a few micro brands. One was Ichnos. This is a dive watch that they made. It was called the Capo, and it had to be one of the best dive watches that I have featured on my channel that was somewhat affordable. I use the word somewhat affordable because this was around $1,800. I think prices have gone up since because of all the tariff issues, but this got 600 meters of water resistance, a beautiful bezel, on the fly micro, just lots of details for the price, made in Switzerland with a Le Jouperet movement. Awesome watch for around 1,800 bucks. You really cannot go wrong. Next, of course, I have to list some Timex. Timex, obviously very affordable, but for some reason they decided to come out with a watch this year that was not very affordable, and that was in their Atelier collection. This is designed by Giorgio Galli. This is a dive watch that is kind of expensive, but when you consider all of the specs that you are getting, the bracelet that has an adjustable bracelet that doesn't really need any tools, you could just pull the bracelet apart because all of the links are spring-loaded. You're getting a ceramic bezel, you're getting 200 meters of water resistance, a Swiss movement. This is a really cool watch with a skeletonized case. It looks like a lot more of an expensive watch than it actually is, and it is also kind of expensive because it's a Timex, so that $1,000 price point is high, but it is really cool. The most affordable watch on this list, coming in at around $75, is the NASA collaboration that they did. This is their square digital watch that kind of looks like a G-Shock a little bit. They did it in two colors, NASA white and NASA orange. It gets lots of NASA badging. These are $75, really cheap, really good looking, and a lot of fun. It seemed like a year for Timex where they were trying out a lot of different things. They came out with a slightly larger dive watch. This was based on their Deepwater Reef, a very, very cool watch that they came out with in titanium. I really love that titanium version, but they also came out with a quartz version that was very affordable in carbon fiber. So this was an extruded carbon fiber, super affordable, around $250 to $300. It's a really good looking, really well made watch for what is an excellent price considering that you are getting a carbon fiber case. And last but not least from Timex is the Waterbury Chrono. Just a really good looking watch that kind of looks like a little bit, just a little bit, looks like a Zenith El Primero. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that these watches, all of the Timex that I've mentioned on this list thus far, look a lot more expensive than they are, and that is definitely a selling factor for them. I love what Timex did this year. I hope they keep in this direction. There really weren't any losers. Maybe there was one, but there weren't very many losers this year from Timex, and they keep on coming out with some really great watches. Speaking about a brand that keeps on coming up with winning watches, Longines. Longines have been making some really incredible updates to their watches, and it was really hard for me to pick just a handful, actually 2 watches to include in this video. Both of them ultra-crons. One was an improvement on the existing ultra-chron, the ultra-chron diver. Again, you're going to see this is a carbon fiber version that they came out with. It's on the more expensive side, and if you really want something that's kind of similar but way cheaper, go for the Timex that I just mentioned. But this is a very good looking dive watch with a high beat movement inside. It's only on a strap because currently they don't make a carbon fiber bracelet. I think it would be a lot more expensive. I couldn't imagine what they would charge for that. But this is just a really good looking version of their very classic design, their very classic ultra-chron diver. And speaking of classic, they also came out with a ultra-chron classic. They came out with it in 37 millimeters and 40 millimeters. I had the 40 millimeter hands on. I would actually recommend the 37 millimeter because these watches do wear slightly larger than their dimensions. So I would say that 42 millimeter probably wears in the neighborhood of 41 to 42 millimeters. So that 37 millimeter really does wear very nicely around 39 millimeters. It looks fantastic. It's silver on silver, so you're getting a silver dial. It's straightforward, really beautifully finished. The dial details are very interesting. There's a crosshair on the dial, you have a date, and then of course you are getting the ultra-chron movement inside, which is a proprietary movement to Longines. They are the only ones that get this movement within the Swatch group currently. So this is only made for them. It comes on a bracelet. You're getting on the fly micro adjust. These come in $4,000. I compared these to Grand Seiko because I think they're as good looking as Grand Seiko and almost as well made as well. These are very nice watches for the price. A watch that I haven't been able to make a video about here on my YouTube channel, well, because it costs $120,000. So yes, we are going from more affordable watches to some ultra unaffordable watches, but we will get back down to earth in just a second. This was the Roger Dubuis reissue of their homage perpetual calendar. I love Roger Dubuis. I've always been a fan of theirs up until they kind of stumbled with all of their modern, weird, techie watches. They've come back to that classic design, that homage that they originally came out with that perpetual calendar in a round, simple, more straightforward case with a double retrograde full calendar, obviously a perpetual calendar. It's just a beautiful watch. Really expensive, $120,000, but I had to mention it here because I hope this is what Roger Dubuis do in 2026. I hope this is the future for the brand because I think it would really make a big difference for them, and I think a lot of people will take notice. Okay, well, Christopher Ward, there are a few on this list. I'm going to list those here. The biggest surprise for me this year, that was the Belcanto Lumiere, a ultra loomed version of the Belcanto. That's all I have to say about it. It's based on the classic model, but it's just incredible. It's like no other Belcanto currently being made, and it's a lot of lume on a watch that really doesn't need all that much lume. Very cool, really weird. I love that sort of thing. It's still a Belcanto. Belcanto is a great watch. It just gets a lot of lume. Then there's the Loco watch that I actually purchased. I love the Loco. I love the exposed balance wheel. I love that it gets 144 hours of power reserve. It's 5 days power reserve, and it's based on the SH21. They changed the name this year to the CW001, so that's the movement that they use, their in-house movement. Lots of different colors, really good looking watches as well. This is something that you would see on much higher end horology, but you're getting this at a more down-to-earth price. They are expensive, $5,000. That Belcanto on the expensive side as well, but considering what you're getting, these are pretty amazing. And then they came out with a new jump hour. These are the first jump hour watches that get a fully loomed hour disc because they made the dial out of non-transparent, not fully transparent sapphire. So it looks like a dial, but it's not. It's actually sapphire. You can see through it. So that means you can charge the lume, and when your hour jumps, you're going to be able to see the hour in the dark. They used a lot of lume, so it's very, very bright. They also used a sapphire minutes hand that gets lume in that. Very cool watches. And of course, they're using their JJ01, which is their jump hour module, on top of a Sellita SW200. So these are kind of affordable at around $3,000 on a bracelet, which I think is a very good price for such a cool, very unique jump hour watch. Last but not least, the watch that Christopher Ward trolled me on this year, because they used one of my videos and cut it up and put a lume counter in the corner, and I said lume like 16 times in the video that I did when I was featuring this watch on my channel. Of course, I am talking about the Lumiere. The Lumiere was a dive watch that they came out with this year in titanium that had globalite. So I believe it was one of the first watches that they were using this much globalite in one watch. So essentially the entire dial, all of the indices, even the logo was made with globalite, which is ceramic solid lume that is milled into indices and their logo. And then they put lume in the bezel as well, so there was tons of lume. I think I've said lume about 16 times again, just talking about it in this video. Next was another watch that I added to my collection this year. This is Awake and their Jurassic Park limited edition. They came out with a green dial and an orange dial. I love Jurassic Park. I love the whole idea behind Awake and their really beautiful Vietnamese made dials. They put a Le Jour Perret movement inside. These are like little independent watches that don't cost a ton of money, but you are getting so much for your money because their dials are amazing. And they've come out with a bunch of different dials this year, and they keep on coming up with weird, funky, cool dials for really good prices. So these cost around $3,000. Fantastic watches. I highly recommend them. I love mine, and I definitely want to add another Awake to my collection. They just came out with Kill Bill, which is kind of weird. I really like that one as well, but they keep on coming up with some cool stuff, and obviously, I really like the brand. The next watch on this list is a watch that I think is very expensive. It's around $100,000 or $120,000, but it is so cool. I talked about it in a video where I was talking about new releases. It was my favorite watches from Watch Time New York when Watch Time was going on here in New York in October. This is the UR10, the space timer from Urwerk. Urwerk came out with a crazy watch that basically times, I believe it's not only the Earth, but the sun and the rotations and all this other stuff. I go into more details in this other video, so I will put a link to that video if you guys are interested. But it's a crazy watch that has a lot of weird complications that are probably essentially useless for day-to-day use, but that's not the reason why you buy an Urwerk. The reason why you buy an Urwerk is because you want something wild, space-themed, science fiction themed on your wrist, and Urwerk do an excellent job of that, and this is yet another example of what they can do, and it is awesome. I want to give two honorable mentions here. The Urwerk Freak, the Your Freak, that's what they named the watch when they came out with it. It's basically a collaboration between Ulysse Nardin, their Freak, and an Urwerk. So essentially you're getting an Urwerk in a Freak case. You're getting that Freak crown. It's not really a crown. It's a button at the bottom of the case, really the bezel, and you press that and you're able to change the time. So you're able to change the time by spinning the entire bezel on the watch. Pretty cool design, really expensive watch, but it's also a very special watch. They're not going to make a lot of these. You can own a Freak and you could buy a used Urwerk and still have money left over, or you could just buy this one watch. So it's really something to think about, but this is something very limited and something very special. And then Urwerk also did another watch that I really love. It was the UR101 T-Rex. So essentially this was a reissue of their first watch, but they gave it the T-Rex treatment. So essentially you are getting a guilloche carving. It's not really guilloche, it's more of a carved case, I would say, but it's meant to look like I don't know, T-Rex skin. I guess that's what they're trying to go for. It's a really good looking watch in my opinion. It's in a bronze color and it's kind of on the affordable side for an Urwerk. This is $44,000. Still very expensive, very, very cool. I love Urwerk, that's why I am featuring 3 of them on this list. ChronoFixe, a brand that was revived, not for the first time. I think this is like the 3rd time it was revived. And they have come out with some pretty amazing watches. They are pulling from their heritage and they are reissuing models that existed in their past. And of course, they are best known for the Type 20. They have reissued the Type 20, but they have done this in a very affordable way. You're getting a sapphire crystal, a hand-wound chronograph. You're getting a dual register layout like the original, but it's affordable. This watch costs just under $500. It looks a lot like the original. They got the size right, they got the look right, and they got the price right because this is affordable. Pretty much the most affordable Type 20 that is an actual Type 20 from the brand that originally issued the Type 20 that costs under $500. I don't think there's any other brand that has come out with a watch like this at that price point. Awesome watch for a great price. There were a few brands that came out with tactical watches this year. There were a lot of really good ones, but my favorite out of all of the tactical watches was the Jack Mason Pursuit Pro. 200 meters of water resistance, a Le Joux movement inside, anti-magnetic, really nice size, rotating bezel, and you are getting global light. So you're getting tons of lume on this watch. It only came in 2 different colors, either a green dial or a black dial, and that was it. Just a good looking, very functional watch that also came on a Velcro strap. So I think that was the first time that they did that. Very comfortable, great looking watch that I really enjoyed my time with. And it's definitely one of my favorite watches of 2025. 2025 was also a good year for me because I was invited to a lot of different events from a lot of different brands. Blancpain invited me for the kickoff of their Villeret. So they reissued the Villeret this year and I was blown away by these watches when I got to see them in person. They are very expensive, but the full calendar with that champagne gold dial with the gold case was one of the best looking dress watches that I have ever seen. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous watch, and they got every detail right. Blancpain, I hope they start turning their attention to some of their dive watches and giving them some of the attention that they deserve as well, because these are excellent. They listened and they have come out with some beautiful watches, and I cannot tell you how much I love them in person. That full calendar with that sunray dial is gorgeous. Last year on this list, I talked about the Vulcain Nautic diver. This year, I want to talk about the Nautic chronograph. They came out with a chronograph version of the Nautic skin diver, and it is just as good looking. It gets the same bracelet, and one of the reasons why I love this watch so much is because of that flat link, large link bracelet. So it's getting links that are basically one large link instead of 3 separate links. So it's like a 3-link bracelet, but really it's just one link. And a lot of people think it's uncomfortable, but it's not. It gets really good on the fly micro adjust. It's awesome. It looks beautiful. And the dual register layout of the Nautic Skin Diver chronograph is excellent. It's very vintage looking, but you're getting a Valjoux movement inside. Really a very nicely made watch and a really good looking watch. And one of my more worn watches of 2025. Mido came out with a lot of watches this year, but they came out with one that really caught my eye, and that was the Mido Pixel. I actually was able to feature that watch here on my channel. It's well under $1,000. It gets a Powermatic 80, a really cool pixel dial that has special lume. It gets a Milanese bracelet that integrates into the case. It's a really nice size, I think around 37 millimeters, and it only costs around $800. It's a special edition with special lume. They use the Commander case for this, so I believe it's the Commander 1957. It's a very classic looking watch with a very modern dial, somewhat retro modern dial, and that's why it works so well. I loved this watch, definitely one of the best of 2025. Next watch is from a German brand that I absolutely fell in love with. I know I don't pronounce their name correctly. It's called Kaiser Design, I believe is how they are pronounced. But you guys know I am so bad at pronouncing names of watch brands. I apologize for that. I do try. I don't always succeed. But this is called the Urwerk, and it is a 3D printed grade 5 titanium case that gets a dial that has, I think it was like 200 different operations to create, and it gets a case that is hand finished by a goldsmith. These are kind of affordable considering what you are getting. It's powered by a Swiss movement, but everything on the watch is essentially a bespoke piece made in Germany by the team, and there is a very small team that make these watches. It's around $5,000, so that's why I say it's kind of affordable, but considering what you're getting, it is kind of an affordable watch. It's a lot of watch for the money. Really cool, really beautiful watches that are very, very different from what you normally see every day, especially because of that skeletonized, evacuated case. So cool. Definitely one of my favorite watches of 2025. You know, this list could not be complete without at least one mention of Zelos. Zelos made a lot of really cool watches this year, but my favorite was their reissue or their next edition of the Zelos Sky Raider, and they used a Marvin 700 inside of this watch. Essentially what Elshon, the owner of the brand, did was find a bunch of vintage hand-wound Swiss-made movements, take them down to bare bones, skeletonize them, refinish them, and then put them back together and put them in a titanium watch with a titanium bracelet. This is a skeletonized watch that came in under $2,000 with a very bespoke vintage movement that was basically overhauled. This is almost unheard of at this price point. If you could name another brand that takes a vintage watch movement and overhauls it to the point that Zelos did for this watch at $2,000, well, under $2,000, please tell me down in the comment section below, because this watch is insane. And the bracelet on it with the micro adjust and everything, extra hard coating, sapphire crystal front and back, lume on the back of the watch, on the case back. An incredible watch that I absolutely love, and it's definitely one of my more worn watches of 2025 as well. Not only one of my favorites, but one of my more worn as well. Venezianico came out with a bunch of cool watches this year as well. The Arsenal was one of my favorites from last year. They came out with a platinum dial this year, and it looked amazing. I had that one hands on. It is a really good looking watch in stainless steel, but with a platinum dial. Just the change of that dial, and they also added center seconds, and I think the Arsenal is sort of an underrated integrated bracelet watch. Definitely one of the best dials from 2025 as well. Nevada Grenchen came out with the Chronosport, and then they changed the name of the watch almost immediately, but when it came out, when I first got it, it was called the Chronosport. This was a design by Singer, not the car Singer, not the Porsche guys, but there was a design house that was designing dials around the time when this watch came out, and they designed the dial for this watch. They also designed the watch for some Speedmasters and some Daytonas as well. I think the Paul Newman Daytona. So this is a watch with a design, a dial design here that is really quite beautiful. I love the look of this watch, and I love that they put it on a bracelet. The bracelet almost makes it look like an integrated bracelet watch. These are around $3,000. They are definitely worth every penny. Powered by a Valjoux movement inside, so slightly higher end movement when compared to the landscape of the Solitas and all the other types of movements that we are getting these days. But an awesome, awesome watch that is really good looking, and the dial and the case here were on point. It's been a while since I've featured Seikos here on my channel, but there were a few Seikos this year that I really did love, and one of them that I absolutely fell in love with was the Seiko speedtimers, the new automatics that they came out with 6R movements, 200 meters of water resistance, inner rotating bezel, and also some different bracelets, something that they haven't used on any of their other watches. I only wish they would put some micro adjust into these watches, into these bracelets, but you know, it's Seiko, that might be too much to ask. Really great looking watches that look more expensive than they actually are. These are around $1,000, which, considering what you're getting from Seiko, that is actually not a bad price. Very cool, and I love the inspiration behind these. They did a Datsun version that was a limited edition. I actually like the non-limited editions a little bit better. Definitely check these out. We're back to some very expensive watches. The Vacheron 222 in stainless steel. This is around a $35,000 or $36,000 watch in stainless steel. Yes, I know that is absolutely absurd, but previous to this, it was only available in gold, which was around $68,000. And I love the idea of the 222 in general. I think it's a better designed watch than the Gerald Genta designs of the time. And I think that they definitely deserve more attention. Although they are very expensive, they deserve more attention, and they are rarer than any AP or Patek Philippe that you will see on anybody else's wrist. I've never featured a Bremont on any of my top lists, especially my year-end list, but for some reason, this watch I cannot get out of my head. It is their jump hour in aventurine with a 904L stainless steel frosted case. This is on a strap. It is good looking. You have a center seconds, and the jump hour is slightly off center, which I think looks really cool. Everything about it, I think, works and looks great, except for the price. The price is $10,000. Their standard version that doesn't have an aventurine dial and gets a standard 904L stainless steel case is around $4,300. So this is a huge jump, not a slight increase. This is almost, well, it is. It's over double the amount for the regular version on a bracelet. So I don't really get the price increase. It's a limited edition of 100 watches or 99 watches, but the price is kind of crazy. Either way, it's a great watch. I think it's great looking and a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it's very expensive. Czapek, when I say that they saved the best for last this year, they have come out with a jump hour that gets a half hunter case. It has dragging or trailing minutes at the bottom of the case in a small window that's in a smiley face shape, I guess you would call it. And then at the center of the case, which is not typical for a jump hour, in the dead center, you have the jump hour mechanism. And essentially what it is very similar, I think, to what Wilbur has done in the past. Wilbur watches, if you're not familiar with them, they are an American brand, but they make a jump hour which essentially takes two discs, a solid disc and a clear disc, and when the hour jumps, both of those discs jump and they combine to make the numeral in the center of the dial. So you get a very central location for that jump hour. That's a little bit of a problem with many jump hours. They have to off-center that jump hour, which is very, very important. It's not really in the best real estate of the dial. So this solves the problem. Of course, it's a very expensive watch because it's a very expensive problem to solve. This is a $40,000 or $54,000 watch. I want to say I think it's $54,000. Very expensive, but very cool. It also gets a case that has a beautiful texture on it. It's like a guilloche pattern on the outside of the case. You could flip it up and there is a sapphire crystal there, so you can actually see everything that is happening below. Last but not least, and one of the more interesting watches that I got to get hands on with this year, it is Space One and their World Timer. I featured one of their watches on my top list last year. That was the Tellurium. It has a little Earth, moon, and sun built into a grade 5 titanium case that looks like a spaceship with a very domed sapphire crystal and an aventurine base. Pretty crazy for the price, and it was around $3,000. It's an insane watch, and they came out with yet another insane watch this year. It's a World Timer that has all of the functions separated out in separate dials. It's a funky watch with a case shape like none other that you have seen. and I really want to get one of these in my collection. I currently have the Tellurium in my collection. I think that's an awesome watch. I really loved what they did with this watch as well. All of these watches are powered by a base movement, usually using a Soprod movement or an ETA movement, something like that, something affordable, and they're keeping the prices pretty low on these considering the complications that you are getting. You're getting like a little MBNF for around $3,000. I would say that these are even better than what you would get from the Mad 1. You know, something that is somewhat of a basic watch with a very, very basic movement. These actually are a little bit higher end even than those, and they're priced in the same range. Science fiction themed watches, check them out. They are making some really cool watches. Anyway, guys, that is my video. I have mentioned a lot of watches in this video. It will take me a very long time to edit this video because I will have to put in so many watches into it, but I wanted to mention all of the watches that I talked about here. Tell me what you guys think of my choices. I know there are definitely other watches that I could have included in this video, but I couldn't, I just didn't have time. So tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. Please add comments down below and tell me what watches you would have included in this list, and tell me what watches you would have taken out of this list. Maybe you didn't agree with me. Maybe you don't think they're all that great. Tell me down in the comment section below. Next week, I will be publishing my least favorite watches of 2025. I do this every year. I do the best and then I do the worst. So stay tuned for that. That will be coming out in just about a week. I always love making that video as well. I know it rubs a lot of brands the wrong way, so I kind of, try and be careful about that, but what can I do? These are the watches that I didn't like, so I will be talking about those. Definitely stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. Happy holidays, and I will catch you guys in the next video.